My mental health is not in a great place right now, but I have books. I had a COVID scare yesterday, got tested, I am negative, thank God, but I'm just not feeling really well. I think it's just school and not sleeping enough, basically. But I did have really good books to get me through this like kind of terrible time. I don't know why I was trying to sugarcoat it. It's a terrible time. I'm not doing an admissions video. This is a terrible time. But yeah, I mean, I dyed my hair. I had a lot of fun doing that, and that's basically the highlight of my life. Anyways, you came here for books, and I have some books for you. I think I was really lucky because even though my life was like with grad school, I did pick up some really good books. The first book I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I did not want this one to end. I thought it was gonna be like the cheesiest, sloppiest kind of like ending ever. Like, look at the cover and what it's called. And I'm so impressed. Like, yes, it's a romance, but the fiction was really good. It was about two characters, January Andrews and Augustus Everett. January is a best-selling romance writer. She writes all these like happy endings. That's shit I would like to read, basically. And Augustus is this like serious, only drinks black coffee, only reads poetry that is not online type of writer. And they meet. And it is the cheesiest meet cute ever, because the whole premise of their meet cute is that they live in opposite or neighboring houses by the beach. They live in neighboring beach houses. So Augustus's genre of books is basically the opposite of what January would write, and he thinks happy endings are like cheesy and unrealistic, basically. And because they're both on this kind of like writer's block, when they meet they end up doing this like challenge. January is gonna write Augustus's genre and Augustus is gonna write January's genre, and it gets very interesting. And to be honest, I kind of picked up this because I wanted that chick flick type of book. Like, I needed to feel happy. So I picked this up. And it was happy, like, don't get me wrong, it is a very happy book, but it isn't like a chick flick book. Like, it's not like a chick flick romance book, if that makes sense. It is really good. Like, the fiction that's in here is really good, the story is really good, and how the characters get over the grief and trauma is really interesting as well. And I think even though it's autumn now, if you want to be happy, if you want to feel a little bit better, and if you have seasonal depression like myself, pick this up. I saw this on BookTube a lot. It was on a lot of those like TikTok made me read books. But a lot of the TikTok made me read books I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, my year and rest of relaxation is what I want to do. But this one, I did not enjoy very much. Like, I just felt like the plot was dumb. That's it. I just felt like it was a stupid ass plot. But it wasn't even like, you know, it's not like cute normal people didn't have a plot but the characters were really good and well developed. It wasn't either of that. It was just no plot, no characters. It was like, I think a lot of people liked this book because of the story and like the mystery and the plot twist at the end, because that plot twist shook me a little bit. Like, it's just something that is so impossible to happen. And it's not even like I like the impossible, you know, but it's like so impossible that it doesn't make sense. And it's just like, I saw a couple of reviews on this and a lot of people didn't like the sentence structure, but I actually really liked that. Like, that was the one thing that I was like, okay, this is like kind of interesting. Although the author sometimes does it in a useless way. Some of it sort of read like it wants to be Instagram poetry, but does not work. Like, it gives me that like Cynthia kind of poetry vibe. Okay, anyways, back to my notes. It is about this like rich Sinclair family. They own this private island which all the grandkids and their family goes to in the summer months. But we focus on this girl called Katie, and it kind of shows her relationship with her family. There's this grandfather who's like rich, just think like old white man that went to an Ivy League school and only talks about that. And he has the money of the family, so he kind of controls everything. And there are 3 sisters who don't work, and basically all their money comes from the grandfather, their father. And the 3 sisters has children, and those children are basically Katie's cousins, plus one of the cousin's friends that Katie kind of has like this romantic with. And there's also like the grandpa is like racist and very sexist, and I feel like there's a lot to talk about with that character, right? Like, and it kind of like, the characters do kind of talk about it, but it gets lost because of the ridiculous fucking plot twist. I don't feel like it's a horrible book. I just felt like some things could be deleted to make some of the discussions more worth it, or just delete the discussion. And if you want this to be like a fun like mystery book, then just have it as that, you know what I mean? Like, then I think it could have worked, but yeah. Okay, the next book I read is Later by Stephen King. I really like this cover. I think it's so cool. It gives me very like book you buy at the gas station kind of vibe. It's a shorter King novel, and this was so good, but I don't think it was my favorite King. Like, I think it does not top Misery or The Shining, which is like his most popular books, and I think there's a reason for that. But I still really enjoyed it because there's like this element of the paranormal meeting crime, which I really liked. So it's about this boy called Jamie, and he has the ability to see and speak to ghosts, basically. And sometimes he uses it to just speak to like his neighbor's dead wife, but they kind of explain how the ghost does not stay and linger around forever. Like, they kind of do pass on. But eventually this character here, Liz, which is Jamie's mother's girlfriend, does get Jamie to use his ability to solve crimes, which then becomes a little bit unethical. And it really does remind me of The Shining a little bit. It has that kind of element in there, but it's like, it meets crime, and I really like crime mystery novels, so I think this really did it for me. And I think if you're just starting out with King, this is a good King novel to start with because it's a little bit shorter than his usual ones, but it still has a lot of the elements that he's known for. And I love this cover. It literally reminds me of like what I had in like my primary school classroom, like Goosebumps. It kind of reminds me of the cover of Goosebumps books. Next, I don't have this book with me right now. I lent it to my friend. I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't think I need to say anything about this book. Like, it is just good. Anything TJR pumps out is just good. Okay, I read Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, both by TJR, and I love them both. So I knew she was gonna do a good job. Like, I wasn't afraid. I just knew. I felt very safe going into this book. She has like the best of both worlds. Like, her plot is really good and the characters are really good. Like, the way she writes them, like, I feel like I know them. So basically this book happens in the course of one night at the Riva party, and bear in mind it is one night, and she already makes you feel like you know these characters really well. So, and the Riva siblings are kids of Mick Riva, this like fictional 80s pop star or rock star, I guess, and they are estranged with their father, basically. And every year they throw a party at Nina, their eldest sister, who is this like very hot, like beautiful 80s model. And she's rich, she's married to this famous tennis player as well. I don't know why that was tennis for me. I clearly do not play the sport. Yeah, they throw this party at her house every year, and it's like the party of Hollywood in the 80s, basically. But during this particular party, everything starts to unfold. Everything from the past starts coming out, and that's the whole premise of the story. When I first read like the blurb or the synopsis of the book, I didn't think it was gonna be as interesting as The Seven Husbands or Daisy Jones and the Six, but it was. I pinky promise you, it was just as good. The next book I read was also a book that I had to teach, and it's World of Wonders in Praise of Fireflies, Whale Sharks, and Other Astonishments. I'm just gonna say this cover is so beautiful, and there's illustrations throughout the book that is also so beautiful. So this book is about the author's experience as an immigrant in the United States, and she uses nature to form the basis of the short essays that she writes. And I didn't hate it, but I don't think I loved it either, because it just felt a little bit repetitive, a lot of the story. I think the essays on their own is really good. I just didn't like all of them together. If you are a literature student, I feel like nature in literature has been done so many times, and it gets a bit like, you know, but I think the author did it really well in this book. So that's one thing that I really liked about it. The thing I really liked about it is that the language she uses is very accessible, and it's so simple and straight to the point, but it's simple in a way that I think is very accessible for younger readers, because I taught this to a 13-year-old boy, and these subjects are pretty heavy. Like consent is discussed in here, obviously the immigrant experience, but a lot of things with like sexuality and love and families. These are themes that are a bit difficult to explain, or not as easy to explain to younger children, I feel like. And I feel like the author does a really good job with this one. Also, I want to preface, I am not a teacher, I'm just a tutor, so I am not in any way a professional. I wasn't taught in education whatsoever, so that was just my recommendation. Okay, the next book I read was Writers and Lovers. This was so freaking good. Like, when I read the blurb, again, because it's about a writer writing about a writer, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so ass, but it was so good. If you liked normal people, I feel like you would really like this as well. It does have a little bit more plot, I feel like, but it's also not like that typical plot, if you know what I mean. A little bit more plot than normal people, but the characters are so well developed as well. So it's about this writer named Casey, and she moves to Massachusetts when her mother passes, and she ends up waiting tables at the Harvard Square, so I'm assuming she's around these like really successful people. And she's been working on a book for 6 years, and she's renting this moldy apartment, and she does not have enough money for health insurance. So it gave me a lot of anxiety. So Casey is 31 years old, and she's still very determined to live this writer, creative lifestyle. And a lot of her friends or people that she's known from the MFA program that she was in has given that up. So one of her friends became a real estate agent, and she was also in the MFA program. And she argues about how like, oh, like she still uses her degree because she has to think of like, I think it was character stories for each house, I think. So I think this book is like what parents would want to say to you if you wanted to pursue a creative journey at the beginning. So far this book sounds terrible, but it does get better. Like Casey is so funny. I sometimes use humor to like laugh at myself and laugh at my own pain. It's not healthy, but I sometimes do it, and I find that kind of humor really funny. So other than it being the humor that I like, it also shows Casey's determination from the beginning, which I think is so good to read about and something so fresh to read about. Because a lot of these books, I feel like that is like, oh, struggling writer or struggling blah blah blah, like reaching her dreams, makes them seem like a girl boss, right? They have a sick ass wardrobe, they have everything together, you know, like things aren't really going her way, but she is like rock solid, you know? Like Casey is far from a girl boss, although you can debate that she is a girl boss because she is determined, but she doesn't have that like typical girl boss that you read like in success stories kind of thing, if that makes sense. She starts at literally the bottom, okay? Like she lives in a moldy apartment. She does not have health insurance. She starts at the bottom. Whereas in a girl boss story, right, like she probably starts like here. There's also like a love triangle in this novel, which adds to the funny like humorous side of this novel, and I don't want to say too much because I feel like it's gonna ruin the book for you, but I highly enjoyed it. It was such a good summer read, probably gonna be one of my favorite books of this year. If you like normal people, again, I think this is a really good one. And then the next book I read is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I took a classics course as an elective in my undergrad and I got an A. Like, it's just crazy. It's these like wild stories. It's like this god chopped off this other god's balls and tossed it in the ocean. And that is why we are the way we are. And in classics, or if you watched Brad Pitt's movie, the Trojan War is a big deal. So this book is somewhat loosely based on the Iliad, which only focuses on the last little part of the Trojan War. But this book, unlike the Iliad, which gives a lot of light onto Achilles and Patroclus and the heroes of the Trojan War, it focuses on Briseis. So it's not exactly just the Iliad's timeline, it also goes back a little bit more. I haven't read the Song of Achilles yet. I have it and I will get to it soon, but I've heard from a lot of people the Song of Achilles is a bit more light and there is some optimism in the Song of Achilles, whereas this is just really dark. There is a lot of bloody imagery and abuse in this book, so I think it does merit a warning. The author does such an amazing job in narrating the story. It wasn't hopeful at all, so it didn't make me very happy. But it probably wasn't very hopeful for the women during the Trojan War either. And she really shows it. And of course, it gave Briseis more of a voice than any of the classics ever did. So yeah, I think if you're into the classics, or if you just want a good story, I think this is a very good one to pick up. And the last book of my recent reads is Exciting Times by Nisha Dolan. And Nisha actually went to Hong Kong for a little bit, and she basically was exactly like the protagonist. She was a TEFL teacher for a little bit, and so was our protagonist Ava. And again, I love normal people, and if you like normal people, you will probably also like this book. Again, the plot isn't like amazing twisting turns plot, but the characters are fantastic. So it's about this Irish expat, kind of like the author herself, who moves to Hong Kong to be a TEFL teacher, and her name is Ava. There is also a love triangle, and I think Nisha just does such a good job, because I can literally see like Julian and Edith, which are the two love interests. Julian is your typical expat banker, and the images that I put up is exactly how she explained Julian. And I can see this, I know Julian, I've known Julians before, I've met Julians before, I still know some Julians. And I think every female in Hong Kong has met a Julian. And on the other corner of the love triangle is Edith. And Edith is also someone that I feel like I've known in my past, or even now. She is a successful lawyer, has really traditional parents, went to boarding school, and now is a successful lawyer. But I struggle to even call it a love triangle, because I also think Nisha shows like love triangles now as a Gen Z, as a millennial, is really complicated, because it could just be like a love or an interest triangle about her navigating her life and having these really hilarious experiences. And I think I really like this book because of how much I know these characters, but if you weren't from Hong Kong, or if you haven't been to Hong Kong, I feel like you would still really enjoy this book. I also saw this book on Anya Taylor-Joy's Instagram story, so I feel like I know her now as well. And I feel like after reading this book, I've achieved that level of coolness. Okay, and those are all the books that I read recently. I don't think it's as impressive as my February pile. I am trying to make more time to read books, but unfortunately this degree is really burying me a little bit alive. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have also found some of your favorites. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you do pick up one of these books. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.